James Cameron returns with his first film in 13 years, so let's rank all of his movies from worst to best. Hey everybody, my name is Justin here. I try to watch everything that hits theaters and on streaming services. If you guys are like me, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below for more up and coming content. Leave your list down below. How would you rank all 11 of James Cameron's movies from worst to best? Coming in last place is Piranha II: The Spawning. This was James Cameron's first film, and it doesn't really feel like a James Cameron film. It's a B horror film that honestly feels a little bit tame. It's got a really weird story of piranhas that can fly, and they're crawling out of people's bodies, and it's not a film that lives up to its crazy potential. It's a B horror film with a really ridiculous plot, but it really takes its time to kind of implement that horror genre into the film. It's slow. And then we have moments where James Cameron is exploring underwater, which we've seen in a lot of James Cameron films. His love for the ocean and exploration, there are some decent scenes like that. Kills are gory at times, but they really could have done a little more for it. This is a film that could be entertaining, but it really moves slow. It's a film that could be entertaining, but it doesn't live up to its potential. It's really tame for what it's trying to offer. And for that, it's one of the most boring James Cameron films and not the best one. Coming in 10th place is Ghost of the Abyss. This came out a few years after Titanic, and it was in theaters and stars Bill Paxton alongside James Cameron and scientists as they explore the Titanic. We see the Titanic undersea. He is exploring all of it, and it feels like an extended scene of the first few scenes of the Titanic with Bill Paxton as they are describing how the Titanic sunk, and then they're exploring it underwater. It's just a continuation of that. They implement some CGI scenes into the film, and it feels like it's just a nostalgia trip for James Cameron coming after Titanic a few years after that. You do see his love for exploring the Titanic and how much that film meant for him, but I think it's also a way to kind of remind people that, hey, we got Titanic, see that movie again. So there is some moments in here that I did appreciate exploring the Titanic and describing everything that had happened. And honestly, Bill Paxton really feels out of place within this film. The narration and him being thrown in with other historians and marine experts. He's just there alongside James Cameron doing what they did in the Titanic film. Coming in 9th place is Aliens of the Deep. Aliens of the Deep captures James Cameron's interest in filmmaking and exploration. The underwater sequences are stunning, while it shows fascinating but haunting creatures of the deep. I did appreciate that there were several different explorers and scientists involved in the film. It gives the film a realistic and honest approach. The film did start to lose me when they did implement the CGI. It really is outdated. I understand what they were trying to do in the conversation about how our ecosystem could be similar to other ecosystems on other planets. But once you start to implement that CGI and trying to recreate different ecosystems, it's gimmicky. It really feels outdated and a little unnecessary in the film. Coming in 8th place is The Abyss. This is easily a forgotten James Cameron film. He has directed some of the biggest films of all time. So it's a film that's easy to overlook. It's got a pretty interesting story in here. There are some really thrilling sequences in here, and James Cameron is able to capture the intensity of this film. And it has a slow buildup, but once you kind of get into the meat of the story and those thrilling scenes underwater and these creatures that are involved in here, at times it's astonishing. Actually think about underwater and everything that lives underneath there. But then also at times it's haunting of thinking about what could be underneath there and watching the characters react to it all. Either they're going to be terrified or they're going to be amazed with everything. So you get several different kind of viewpoints to what is happening on within this film. There are some really bad performances in here and some really cheesy dialogue that doesn't really match the overall tone that James Cameron is trying to create in this film. And the ending isn't the best thing ever. I thought it was doing a nice job leading up to it, but it doesn't work for me. But overall, The Abyss, for watching it for the first time, I did enjoy it. I loved the exploration of underwater and the creatures involved in there and how mysterious this film is, but also presenting that thrilling nature to it, it does work. And there are some really well directed scenes with people underwater and water pouring in and having them trying to survive. There's some intense scenes throughout. It's a well filmed movie in the 80s. Like I said, it's easy to forget this film compared to what he has directed after this. Coming in 7th place is True Lies. I love that James Cameron balanced a relationship between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis and him being a spy. It had him being a spy and how his job affects his relationship and how his wife is trying to explore something new in their marriage and have this risky relationship with someone else and feel like she's just living. And that's really affecting Arnold Schwarzenegger, but also he's using his spy skill set to get to the bottom of what is happening. So it's easy to balance this story developing surrounding Arnold Schwarzenegger being a spy, but then also trying to handle the moments with him and his wife. Those are fun sequences. This is probably his most lighthearted, entertaining film. Comedy thrown throughout the film. It's got some really great action. I love the chemistry between Jamie Lee Curtis and Arnold Schwarzenegger. They are a great pair within here. There's some really big action scenes in here that really gives it that thrilling feel to it. I love some of the chase sequences, especially with Arnold Schwarzenegger on a horse and using an elevator. They really go above and beyond with some of these action scenes. And what they were able to do in the 90s with some of the filmmaking, it's really impressive. Coming in 6th place is The Terminator. The start of the Terminator franchise with James Cameron is a sci-fi horror action film with Arnold Schwarzenegger that has stood the test of time. He worked with a low budget for this film, but he was able to bring a film that utilized practical effects and makeup as well to really add to the lore of the Terminator film franchise and exploring the world in here. It's a really complex plot of characters coming from the future to protect or kill characters from the past and how the past moments could affect the future. The first Terminator film holds some really solid action. There's a lot of intensity throughout the film, and it's got that great sci-fi feel to it. There are some classic lines from Arnold Schwarzenegger. And while the sequel did improve on this film, it really did a great job of setting up the Terminator franchise. Everything else after Terminator 2 Judgment Day has not been good. But that first film established the tone of this world, the lore behind it. Arnold Schwarzenegger gives a really chilling performance. He will stop at nothing within this film, but I love what they did with that low budget. Action in here is solid. The sci-fi feel shines throughout. This is a very iconic film, not only for its lines, but for James Cameron and Arnold Schwarzenegger. When you think of Arnold Schwarzenegger, you think of him as the Terminator. Coming in 5th place is Avatar. When this film was released, it was easy to see this film as one of the best looking films of all time. It has a really thin story, but you're able to appreciate the visuals and the action within this film. It is stunning what James Cameron did with this film and how it holds up 13 years later and how The Way of Water is still able to really capture that same tone from that first film. But this story, I love how it explored Jake Sully and how he was slowly starting to appreciate the Na'vi race and feel more connected to them. The action in here is intense. The story of protecting the forest, while at times felt thin, I did appreciate the message it was trying to get across. I love how it explores the world of Pandora, and there's many times where James Cameron slows down scenes to where the characters can react to what is happening. You feel that grand scale to this film. The score is matching the overall tone of this movie. It's a very impressive film. No matter how you look at it, if you don't like the story or not, you have to realize that this is a groundbreaking film with its visuals and what James Cameron was able to do with it. Coming in 4th place is Avatar: The Way of Water. This is the second film, and I love that it expanded on that first film by giving us more regions in Pandora and bringing in familiar villains within the film, but also exploring a little more of them and doing new things with them as well. Jake Sully has a family now, so you see different dynamics within this film. There really wasn't an emotional connection in the film, and I didn't care much for the story, much like that first film, but there is a lot more action in here. Scenes feel a lot bigger in here, and there's so many scenes that you just look at it and you're just wondering, how did he do it? I just do not understand. His children tried to test him, but they also trusted him as well. There was a sense of urgency in here. It was huge. The visuals are stunning. It just builds on that first film and offers a lot more in here with its 3-hour runtime. Coming in third place is Titanic. It's been a long time since I've seen Titanic. I just watched it last week, and I remember seeing it in theaters and laying on the aisle at the movie theater and just watching the 3-hour film when I was a kid. I love this film. I don't remember much of it as a kid, and so I really didn't have a kind of opinion on the film. But now, watching it as an adult, it's a very sweet film. Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio have undeniably good chemistry. They are perfect together, and I love how the film is taking about half of its movie to develop their relationship, and you see that genuine connection that they have. And then when the Titanic starts to sink, you see them protect each other, and that love is coming out. This film is heartbreaking. I know that these characters were made up for the film, but when you look at everything that had happened, it's truly emotional. I bawled my eyes out while watching this film, and half of the film is the Titanic sinking, and they really capture how a lot of the people reacted to the ship sinking and the choices they made to protect themselves. When you think about what happened within this film, you start to think about the actual Titanic event, and it's heartbreaking. It's so sad to watch. James Cameron is able to bring that relationship, and you know it's going to end, and you know it's not going to work out in the end for them, but it is sweet. That chemistry that they have is perfect in here. The film is iconic for the right reasons. The visuals are stunning in here. It really utilizes that last half of the film to create that intensity and those emotional scenes throughout. Titanic is an impressive film. It's a long film to get through, but there is that nice balance of sweet moments for these characters and those really heartbreaking, emotional moments at the end that is just truly so hard to watch and so sad. If you don't get emotional when watching this film, I don't know what's wrong with you. I cried several times. So Titanic has stood the test of time. I understand that it's a little bit cheesy at times and the dialogue doesn't work and there's some kind of iffy performances, but James Cameron did a great job with this film. Coming in second place is Aliens. This film surpasses the original film in so many ways. It's darker than that first film. It's scarier. There's a lot more action. The alien in here is intense. There is so many good action scenes in here. They perfectly portray Ripley as a character that has nightmares about the alien from the first film and how it carries over to the second film, but she stands up, she fights the alien. There's some great action scenes in here. It's building on the world that is created in that first film. It's got that heavy sci-fi feel to it. It's darker, it's scarier. James Cameron topped everything from that first film. It's going even bigger than Alien. I do love Alien, but this film really took it to the extreme and gave us bigger scenes, darker scenes, scarier scenes. And Sigourney Weaver gave a performance in here that makes Ripley one of the best action heroes in cinema. James Cameron does a great job of crafting bigger sequels. Terminator 2, Aliens, Avatar, Way of Water. He understands how to build on the world that was already established in that first film, while also connecting it and paying tribute to it and giving us just a lot more. But coming in first place is Terminator 2 Judgment Day. I love how they flipped the switch on this film, having Arnold Schwarzenegger be the one that protects John Connor, and that really affects Sarah Connor within the film. Watching Sarah react to seeing Terminator in the film, it's haunting for her and takes some time to kind of establish that trust. But there is some moments in here that implemented new technology into it. And the CGI in here with the new Terminator that's sent to kill John Connor really is amazing. For when it was released, it's stunning. Obviously, things have changed. We've seen that with Avatar, but for when it was released, it was stunning. And he did a great job of capturing how stunning it is. Watching him go through the jail cell is an iconic scene for what the CGI was doing. But I love the relationship between John and the Terminator has to do whatever John says. Adds for some funny moments, but also you see that genuine connection that they have because he has to protect John. And so there's that trust and kind of that love that they have for each other, and I love seeing that relationship develop throughout the film. There is some big action scenes in here. It builds on the story and adding more detail to the future and leading up to it as well. And Skynet, it's a film that does feel complicated and it's building on the story. We have great storytelling, we have some great action, fun performances. This is an epic sci-fi film. James Cameron has directed some of the best sci-fi films of all time, and I absolutely love Terminator 2. I wish the other ones were as good as this one, and I think they should have ended it there, but I love the story, the characters, the connection to that first film, and changing things up, and then also giving us more detail to the future and what it holds for Skynet and the Terminators and John and Sarah Connor. So there you guys have it, all 11 James Cameron movies ranked worst to best. How would you rank them? Let me know in the comment section down below, and stay tuned for more up and coming content like this. My name is Just Watches Movies, and you guys stay classy, YouTube.